Good morning and thank you for joining us on Korea Today.
The deadly tick-borne virus is suspected to have killed a 78-year-old man in Korea. So far, 2 deaths from the virus have been confirmed. Just what is it? Korea Today takes a closer look.
More firms that have paper companies in overseas tax havens have been released. More coming up in the headlines. No denuclearization, no dialogue. That's the message South Korean government sent to the North yesterday. More on In Print.
And find out about Korean government's efforts to eradicate illegal production and sales of counterfeit goods.
Korean food has been proven to have health effects and benefits such as preventing diabetes and cardiovascular diseases. We look at the science behind the facts. In a $10 million global mobile game market, Korean companies have been breaking new grounds with their innovative games. Get the latest on Tech Watch on Tuesday, May 28, 2013.
From Arirang News, this is Korea Today.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Korea Today on a Tuesday morning.
The Guardian published an interesting article titled Korean Unification, Dreams of Unity Fade into Past for Young Koreans, and it's about exactly that. It seems that more and more younger South Korean youth, they see less and feel less of a need for the two Koreas to reunify.
That's right. The paper notes as of 2010, less than 50% of 20-something-year-olds feel that it is necessary. And the paper also compared it to the reunification of East and West Germany, where the per capita difference was 1 to 2 or 1 to 3, but in the case of the two Koreas, it stands at 1 to 15 or 1 to 40 in some cases, by some estimates. And the paper also asks an important question, an interesting question. It says, what if it happens tomorrow? And everyone sort of backs off, right? But it looks like it won't happen tomorrow. The two Koreas are still very much at odds over many issues. Na Young-kyung has this and other stories in her headlines.
Prosecutors are tracing stock trading records of one of Korea's major conglomerates, CJ Group. As part of their investigation into allegations, the company created slush funds and evaded taxes. The Seoul Central District Prosecutor's Office says it is looking into records between the firm and its subsidiary, CJ Jeiljedang Corporation, especially in the year 2007. Prosecutors also said key figures, including family members of the group's chairman Lee Jae-hyun, will be summoned as soon as they secure clear evidence. CJ Group is Korea's 14th largest conglomerate with more than a dozen subsidiaries, including CJ Entertainment. A non-profit news agency responsible for last week's release of a list of 245 Koreans who own paper companies in overseas tax havens released a second draft of names on Monday. The list includes chairwoman and CEO of Hanjin Shipping, Choi Eun-young, Cho Young-min, former CEO of Hanjin Shipping, as well as Cho Min-ho, former CEO of SK Securities. Korea's National Tax Service is currently looking into some 20 Koreans who were on last week's list released by the Korea Center for Investigative Journalism. The news agency says it will release a third round of names on Thursday. A man in his 70s with symptoms of a tick-borne virus infection has died in the country's southwestern Chungcheong province. The Korea Centers for Disease Control said Monday that the 78-year-old man was suspected to have been bitten by a tick and showed signs of SFTS, or severe fever with thrombocytopenia syndrome. Health authorities, however, added that further analysis needs to be conducted for confirmation. Currently, Korea has 2 confirmed cases of death from the infection, with more than 30 others suspected of having been infected. South Korea says words from North Korea with no substance are no longer enough to resume inter-Korean dialogue. In his first briefing to the media since Pyongyang's Special Envoy Choi Ryong-hae visited Beijing, Seoul's Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se laid out the preconditions for the resumption of inter-Korean talks.
We don't want talks for talk's sake. North Korea must show that it is sincere about denuclearization by abiding by its international obligations and promises. The priority for North Korea in relation to the six-party talks is North Korea's will to denuclearize.
Meanwhile, South Korea's Unification Ministry has indirectly rebuffed North Korea's invitation to civic and religious groups in the South to jointly celebrate the 13th anniversary of an Inter-Korean joint declaration signed on June 15th in 2000. Through a statement, it said Pyongyang should first respond to the Seoul's request for Inter-Korean talks. Japan's Osaka Mayor Toru Hashimoto held a press conference on Monday in Japan in an attempt to explain his controversial statements that have received international criticism. Hashimoto has been under the spotlight for the past couple of weeks for saying sexual slavery was a necessity during times of war. On Monday, Hashimoto emphasized that he is committed to the dignity of women, but stuck to his original claim and also brought up the Korea-controlled Dokdo Islets in the East Sea, a territorial issue that sparks heated debate between Korea and Japan.
It's unclear whether military brothel owners were the ones forcing women into sexual slavery or if it was the Japanese government which systematically gathered women. I hope sovereignty claims over the Dokdo Islets as well as wartime sexual slavery issues will be taken to the International Court for resolution.
In response, Korea's Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se called Hashimoto's remarks embarrassing and shameful, adding that it will only lead to a cold response from the international community. And good morning, everyone. No huge news items yesterday. It is a mixed bag today as well. We will begin with the headline concerning North Korea, as Hyung-kyung already touched upon earlier. Now, Jungang Daily's headline reads, Park Geun-hye government reiterates no dialogue with no denuclearization. Now, the sub-headlines go on to say that Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se called for sincerity from the North, marking the first time this whole government has expressed its stance on resuming this six-party talks after North Korea showed willingness to return to dialogue with related countries. And the article goes on to say that this no talks for talk's sake is a stance held not only by related South Korean ministries, but also their U.S. counterparts, saying that the two ally nations had tuned their respective positions. It also says the likelihood that the six-party talks will reopen is slim, given the negative feelings exchanged in the days directly following the North Korean's special envoy's China visit, as we talked about yesterday as well, though eyes are now on the U.S.-China summit talks scheduled for the 6th and 7th of next month. That's just in a couple weeks as to which way the winds will blow. And on that note, let's go ahead and scoot over to 조선일보 and take a look at this headline here. It reads, President Park and Xi Jinping to adopt Korea-China future vision next month. Now, following the U.S.-China meetings will be South Korea-China meetings on the 27th of June. And the paper says that Foreign Minister Yoon, in his press conference yesterday, also stated that President Park Geun-hye will discuss cooperation with China on matters related to politics, the economy, and regional security and prosperity with her counterpart, President Xi Jinping. He also said that two countries have been working to build close relations leading up to the meeting of the two heads of state. And the article ends by saying that President Park has been pursuing this realization of a three-way talk, that is South Korea, China, and the U.S., to come up with a united strategy in dealing with North Korea. And we shall go ahead and leave that there and turn to Gyeongyang Shinmun now and take a look at this headline. First, it reads, Ahn Cheol-soo's new party would likely pursue labor-centric progressive tone. Now, the career trajectory of Ahn Cheol-soo, the medical doctor turned successful IT mogul, turned presidential hopeful, turned now independent National Assembly lawmaker, is still very much in the mind's eye of many. And this Gyeongyang article features statements made by
by Choi Chang-jip. He is the chairman of An Chul-soo's think tank, who alluded that should An create his own political party, it would be different from the main opposition Democratic Party in that it would be more progressive in vision and address the needs of the working people that the DP have failed to do thus far. The article notes that this is the first time that the chairman has spoken specifically on the direction of this hypothetical new party. And we'll go ahead and take a look at the front page image as well. It shows a group of people in the rain. It did rain quite a bit yesterday, but they are demonstrating and calling for the easing of a new regulation that would restrict the formation of new franchise stores. Interesting to note here are that they are employees of the franchises, and the caption says, along with a title that reads that this is a display of the resistance of the cop or the contractor in the ongoing, struggle between the contractors and the contractees. All right, and 동아일보 also has the no talks for toxic story as its top. So let's go ahead and take a look at this side story here. It reads, National Treasure Grade Buddhist painting retrieved from Japan. And that Buddhist painting is called the 석가 영산 회도. And what makes it special, the article says, is that it was created by king's orders during the Joseon dynasty on the very year that the Imjin War broke out. Imjin-Weran, as it is known by Koreans, marks the Japanese invasion of Korea back in 1592. And this Buddhist painting returns to Korea after 421 years of being away, following more than 2 years of back and forth consultation by one antiquities specialist. And finally, we'll take a quick look at our front page story on Korea Economic Daily. Its headline reads, Economic Artery Choked by Hasty Lawmaking. Now, the month of June, just around the corner next week, we'll see the launch of the National Assembly opening a special session for 30 days. And the lead reads that the business world is nervous because it is set to deal with a number of bills set forth under the umbrella of economic democratization, that is the National Assembly. And among those bills include those to offset unfair inside work circulation, regulating financial holdings, as well as retirement age laws and those dealing with chemical substance laws. So the crux of the article, it says that there is a growing voice of concern that laws are being made for the sake of making laws without proper consideration to its impact. So you can bet that a lot of eyes will be on the National Assembly next month. And that wraps your look at what's in print on this Tuesday. Here comes your market action from Monday.
Just yesterday, a dozen of street vendors were caught by the local police in the southeastern city of Daegu for selling counterfeit golf clubs and clothes. It's not uncommon in Korea, but also in other countries to see the illegal sales or manufacturing of fake products. And to tell us more, we are joined by Kim Chan-ju in the studio.
Good morning. The market, unfortunately, for the illegal production and sales of these counterfeit goods are growing. And unfortunately, in the past, it used to be in the certain areas, something like a luxury bags. But as you just mentioned, it's growing into other fields, something like golf clubs, sportswear, outdoor gears, and sometimes even electronic appliances. So there have been so many efforts by the government, especially this special police force that was established by the Korea intellectual property office trying to cover many areas these days.
And that was in 2010. But before we delve deeper, how are the vendors or manufacturers penalized, though?
Well, so far, under current laws, manufacturers and producers, the sellers, are accountable for selling these illegal products, and they're subject for 7-year sentence or a fine up to $90,000. But the problem is that these vendors are not seen as the ultimate force of these operations. So basically, they end up paying the fine, but they eventually end up going back to selling these products.
And the profits they make would actually exceed the amount that they have to pay as a fine.
Absolutely. That's why they keep going back to selling these products, which is a big part of the problem. And so recently, the Korean government has taken more aggressive measures to crack down on these illegal operations. So we tagged along to see the investigations. The production and sales of counterfeit goods is a problem that continues to grow worldwide. Korea is not an exception with its 15 trillion won or $13 billion underground market. The country is combating the sale of these fake products, which are being sold through more creative ways designed to bypass government crackdowns. The Korean government instituted in 2010 a special judicial police force to set up its efforts in eradicating intellectual property violations. Unlike most countries where the police or the customs office investigates such violations, the special judicial police in Korea are independent and specialize in uncovering counterfeit goods.
Because we only investigate counterfeit goods, we're able to crack down on the violations much more efficiently and with more expertise.
And with its expert knowledge, the country is increasing its investigations using online and offline tactics. The trade of fake goods is becoming more manipulative by the day, and using the power of the internet, circulation of these products is much easier, with roughly 33% being sold through the web. This is because it's much easier not only to sell the goods, but also evade crackdowns. The special team receives tip-offs every day, and with them, they head out to uncover any covert operations immediately to prevent vendors from hiding evidence. Now, at a factory in the Kuro district, the team raids a site suspected of manufacturing counterfeit goods. The goods initially found on site are not fake products, but rather those registered under a trademark with a striking resemblance to a luxury brand. However, upon further digging, the investigators find counterfeit goods from China, which the company will be held accountable for.
이거는 우리가 속설로 이지라고 불러요. 구찌가 아니라.
실제 구찌가 이제 제대로 된 놈도 중간에 이제 연결 안 돼 있잖아.
그렇죠. 이걸 좀 유사하게 하면서.
The special police know the counterfeit market as well as the vendors involved. Using independent investigation rights, they can gather evidence on site.
솔직히 말씀드려서 여기 장사 안 돼서 어떻게 이번 일요일 날 왔어요. 중국에 갔다가 한번 해보려고 오는 김에 몇 개 한번 실험으로 가져와서.
몇 개 가져오셨어요?
일단은 저기 이분이 여기 가방 갖고 오셨다고 개인 소지품으로 갖고 오셨다 하지만 세관에서 가방 한 개에 대한 연쇄 규정이 있거든요. 본인이 이렇게 갖고 온 것도 불법이에요.
With more crackdowns come increasingly sophisticated methods of operation. Surveillance cameras are installed in some cases, and in other cases, vendors have offered warranty on their products to bring in more customers.
To fundamentally root out this problem, we need to continue with the efforts that we're making. But it's also important for consumers to change their perceptions. I'm determined to eradicate counterfeit goods by cracking down on the manufacturers, distributors, and private vendors.
So the current government is stepping up to protect intellectual property rights. And you mentioned it in the video, but it looks like it's becoming trickier to track down illegal sales that are made online, especially.
Absolutely. The Special Judicial Police said that it is really hard to track down the online sales of counterfeit goods rather than offline at the marketplaces. But then again, there has been increasing awareness of these consequences and problems of these counterfeit goods. So the police say that they have seen increased number of tip-offs from consumers lately from their website.
And in Korea, consumers, though, are not held accountable.
They are not actually. Currently, producers and sellers in Korea are held accountable for selling these products. And in addition, the government continues to educate in grave consequences and problems that the consumers could face when they buy these counterfeit goods.
And so the government is holding campaigns. I mean, if it boils down to the consumers, if they don't buy them and they don't look for the counterfeit goods, then the sellers won't be making any money.
That's a good point. I think it is the most important thing to eradicate these counterfeit goods is that the consumers need to change their perception and their attitude towards these fake goods. So that's the most important thing.
And there's a campaign going on for that?
Absolutely. The nationwide campaign by the Patent Office will be going on today. The Intellectual Property Office will be going on from today to change the awareness, consumer awareness about these counterfeit goods. So more good results to become from this special judicial police.
All right. Thank you very much, Chanji, for your report.
Thank you.
And I believe it's time to get updated with weather. Back to you, Minjung and Young.
All right, thank you very much, Hyun-Kyung. And that's a report on counterfeit goods. It seems that many counterfeit salespersons or people, businesses have moved online, which makes it harder to track. All right, now it's been raining yesterday and it's also raining today.
Raining quite hard this morning as we drove to work this morning.
All right, we'll get a check on today's weather conditions, what we can expect with Lee Dami joining us. Good morning, Dami.
Thanks, Young and Minjung, and good morning, everyone. Today, I'm reporting live from the War Museum located in Yongsan-gu, Seoul, because I heard there's a special exhibition going on. But first, let's talk about the weather. Yes, we did see much rain yesterday. This morning, conditions are pretty similar. However, the rain has momentarily come to a stop, but we can expect rain throughout the day, so don't forget your umbrellas. Now, since yesterday and today, Seoul has seen about 62 millimeters of rain, which is quite a lot considering that it is early summer. Now, the reason why we're seeing all of this rain is because there is a low pressure trough coming in from the west, making these thick rain clouds. As for the temperatures, it is quite cool. Current temperatures are at about 19 degrees Celsius. It looks like our highs won't peak up as much as well. Now, the rain, like I said, will continue throughout the day. It will stop later in the evening, but once again, it will come again tomorrow about in the afternoon. So keep your heads up for that. Let's go ahead and take a look at the temperatures across the nation. Here in Seoul, lows will start out at 18 and highs will go up to 23. Daejeon and Daegu will be exactly the same, starting out at 18 and rising to 24. Gwangju and Jeju Island will both peak up to 25. Now, down in Jeju, heavy rain warnings have been lifted. However, some areas in the Gyeongsang province are still seeing heavy rain warnings and gale advisories in the southeast coast of the peninsula. Tomorrow, we can expect rain again in the afternoon, so don't forget your umbrellas. That's all I have for the weather. I'll be back in just a few moments.
SFTS, the deadly tick-borne virus, has so far claimed the lives of 2 victims in Korea and sent many into a flurry of concern about the dangers of ticks in outdoor areas. What exactly is a tick-borne virus and how concerned should we be?
You're watching Korea Today. I think a lot of people would agree with me when I say Korean food tastes so good.
Oh, it sure does.
Especially this early in the morning when it's time for breakfast. But according to a recent study, the average Korean meal has great health benefits, especially such as the prevention of strokes or diabetes, compared to the recommended U.S. diet or a typical American meal. Let's find out more about this study. With a recent growth in popularity of Korean food, more foreigners are seeking out Korean menus. It's not just the taste, though. A recent study has proved the health benefits of the Korean diet. A joint 4-year study was conducted from 2009 by the Beltsville Human Nutrition Research Center, a Johns Hopkins University research team, and Korea's Rural Development Administration. The team conducted research and created a clinical trial to look into the nutritional benefits of the Korean diet. They later used non-Koreans to carry out their trial test in the U.S.
We had 29 Americans cross-consume the Korean diet, one from the dietary guidelines for Americans and a typical American diet. The trial included 25 days of rest periods and lasted for 14 weeks.
In the case of the Korean diet, meals were designed using rice, soup, kimchi, and side dishes to accurately reflect a typical Korean meal. The typical American diet was comprised of refined grains, meat, and dairy products, and meals designed according to dietary guidelines for Americans consisted of whole grains, fruits, vegetables, and low-fat dairy products. Results indicated that those who followed the Korean diet experienced a 5- to 6-fold drop in cholesterol and blood sugar levels.
A drop in cholesterol levels can prevent hyperlipidemia, hardening of the arteries, and other cardiovascular diseases such as high blood pressure. The decrease in fasting blood plasma glucose will help prevent and improve diabetes.
The reasons behind this was the fact that the energy makeup of the Korean diet is very close to the recommended figures, and also cooking methods such as blanching vegetables enabled people to eat a wider variety of greens.
Using Korean cooking methods such as grilling or steaming that use less oil helped. Not only that, eating fermented foods such as kimchi or bean paste, as well as vegetables and various grains, can help stimulate more bioactivity.
Korean side dishes such as the popular kimchi dish and other soy pastes that have been fermented is also found to have had a positive effect.
Korean food is very tasty, and it's also extremely healthy.
These results show that Korean meals can be a well-balanced, nutritional part of a healthy diet.
I just want to say that looks yummy.
It sure does. I mean, it definitely does. And Korean food is very low in cholesterol and saturated fats, which makes it a plus for people who are on diets. Obviously, I haven't had my Korean food.
Have some more Korean food. The results of this study will be published in a clinical journal soon. And eat more Korean food again.
All right. Speaking of food, we're not going to have any right now. And there's someone starving every morning, just like us. And Dami joins us from the outdoors. Are you surprised? Well, we're going to find out where she is. Dami, over to you.
Thanks, guys. I'm reporting live from the War Museum located in Yongsan-gu, Seoul. Now, whenever you think or you look at the human body or even think about the theory of the human body, it's very hard, difficult, very complex. But I found this special exhibition that is going on called the Science Show, The Body, which helps you kind of show virtually with your own eyes what the human body exactly is like. So as we move along here in the exhibition, I want to go ahead and tell you a little bit more about it. Now, this is the world's first interactive science show named as part of the SciTech series, meaning that this exhibition has a variety of different concepts from videos, virtual reality to digital games and more meshed together to create a new paradigm of future exhibitions. Now, this is really amazing. So as we move along here, this right here, okay, here, I'm gonna go ahead and activate it. All right. Okay, so if you look at the screen right now, it's a picture of a skeleton of my body. So as I move, we can see different types. This is the skeletal system, and this is the nervous system. This right here is the cardiovascular system. Yay! Okay, so this is just something, and this is all together. It's just something really interesting that you can enjoy here at the exhibition. Now, as we move along this way, another thing that I want to show you is just a touch screen where you can see some of the major organs in the body. Now, as we touch these buttons on the screen, what it'll do, it'll start highlighting some of the major organs in the body. Voila. Now, here as we move along this way, this is the vein tunnel right here. Go through these red curtains, okay? All right, so here, this is where visitors can come into the tunnel and kind of become a blood cell in your body. And you can see these live visual videos of what the blood is like when it flows into your body. Now, the Science Show The Body is an exhibition that will go on until next year, March 2nd. So if you have the time, then you should definitely come. I must say that looking at the human body with my own two eyes, being able to experience it myself is very fun and more effective instead of just reading books and reading facts. So that's all I have for today. I'll see everyone tomorrow. I'm Inami, Korea Today.
And still ahead, as the global mobile game market continues to grow, Korean mobile games are aggressively climbing the ranks in the app stores across the world. We look at what the driving forces are behind this trend, so don't go away.
In Korea, 2 deaths have recently been confirmed to have been caused by the deadly tick-borne virus SFTS, or severe fever with thrombocytopenia syndrome. The first confirmed case was a woman living in Gangwon province who died last August, and the most recent case occurred 9 months later. Another suspected SFTS case resulting in the death of the patient was reported just yesterday, and there are concerns over the fact that reports of patients showing similar symptoms are growing. Last Tuesday, the first death from a tick-borne virus was retroactively confirmed. 2 days later, a second case was also confirmed, raising a red flag about the dangers of the deadly tick-borne virus. The virus has so far claimed the lives of 129 people in China, 8 in Japan, and 2 in Korea. Within the country, suspected cases are being reported nationwide from Busan and Jeju Island to regions in the Gyeonggi province. The first confirmed victim, a woman in her 60s residing in the eastern Gangwon province, died last August after suffering symptoms of high fever and thrombocytopenia, or low platelet count, upon returning from work in the fields. The second victim, a farmer in his 70s from Jeju Island, was also confirmed to have died of the tick-borne virus. The victim was exposed to the severe fever with thrombocytopenia syndrome, or the SFTS virus, while outdoors, and it's become a huge cause of concern for many people here in Korea who like to spend their time outdoors on hiking trails like this. We visited the Korea Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, where the reported cases are being studied. The SFTS virus can be carried by the tick called the Hemaphysalis longicornis, which is roughly 3 millimeters long, but can reach up to 10 millimeters after sucking blood from its victim. They are most active during the months of May to August. The likelihood of this tick species becoming host to the SFTS virus is less than 0.5%, but is transferred to humans if they are bitten by the ticks in question.
High fevers along with diarrhea can occur. If severe, the platelet and white cell count will drop, which can potentially lead to death from multiple organ failure.
What dangers do those face when bitten by a tick that carries the virus? We visited Seoul National University Hospital, where the first victim was treated.
Due to global warming and the rise in temperatures, the activities of ticks may have increased, but the exact correlation has not been proved yet.
The death rate was first announced at a very high percentage. Where does the death rate stand now?
In the beginning, they announced that the fatality rate in China was at 20 to 30%. But based on later studies from 2010 and 2011, only 6% of the 2,000 reported patients have died from the virus. So it appears that the fatality rate is actually lower than expected.
The fatality rate so far is relatively low, but because no treatment or vaccines exist, it's important to take extra precautions. So first reported in 2009 and identified in 2011, the SFTS virus has been around for some time, yet scientists still do not know much about it, nor Is there a vaccine or a known cure? The best way is preventing exposure, and the key is to avoid being bitten. Whenever near fields or in mountainous areas, long sleeves, trousers, minimizing skin exposure is recommended. Using bug sprays and repellents that are labeled to repel ticks may also be useful. And if you're showing symptoms of fever, nausea, vomiting, and or diarrhea after an outdoor excursion, early diagnosis definitely plays a role. See a doctor immediately. And Minjung and Hyungyung has a bit more on ticks and mites. So back to you.
You heard young ticks tend to become more active during the summer months. And to tell us more about some of the illnesses that are linked with ticks, we have Dr. Alice Hyungyung Dan from the Samsung Medical Center. Good morning. Last week it was bacteria, and today ticks and mites. You're on a roll.
Yes. So, Dr. Tan, can you tell us a little bit about ticks in general?
Right. So ticks and mites are both small pests. They are in the same class of insect called Acarina. Diseases related to mites include house dust mite allergy, also scabies, and a disease called scrub typhus, which is also known as Tsutsukumushi disease.
That's right. Obviously, with ticks, they're found on animals. Now, what about mites? Where are they found? At homes, too?
So for house dust mites, they thrive in indoor environments. They like to live in bedrooms, and they can be found also very commonly in bedding. They can manifest, in other words, the allergy to house dust mites can manifest as wheezing, cough, asthma, and eczema. And so it's very important for people who have these conditions to keep house dust mite levels very low. You can do that by replacing any carpets or rugs you have in the home with hard flooring. Also, you should wash your bedding very frequently in above boiling temperatures. Using a dryer is also helpful for clothes, and keeping the relative humidity in your home less than 50% is helpful as well.
How frequent is frequent when you wash the bedding? Just maybe twice a week?
Twice a week should be fine. Okay. Once a week.
Is it more than enough? Twice a week? No.
I want to do it every day after all of this report, but yeah.
There's some serious diseases related to mites as well, such as scrub typhus. That is caused by a bacterium called O. Tsutsukumushi and is carried by the trombiculid mite. There's a very typical black eschar that happens on the skin after the bite, and that's an important clue to the diagnosis of this disease. Other symptoms include fever, a generalized sort of measles-like rash, nausea, vomiting, and cough. Fortunately, there is a cure for this disease, and that's in antibiotics, such as doxycycline, chloramphenicol, or azithromycin.
Well, what are some of the diseases that can be transmitted by ticks?
Right, so ticks are similar to spiders. They're slightly bigger than mites. 3 of the more common tick-borne illnesses are Lyme disease, tularemia, and tick-borne encephalitis. In the case of SFTS, that disease is caused by a virus and is carried by the Haemophilus longicornis tick.
All these big words you're dropping there, I'm getting a little confused. But so the Korea Centers for Disease Control and Prevention advise people against sitting on grass. And so what are some of the things that we need to keep in mind to prevent ourselves from getting that tick-borne virus?
Right, so as soon as you come indoors, after your hike or spending time outside, you should try to bathe as soon as possible, preferably within 2 hours. After bathing, you should do actually a tick check. So look over your body with a handheld mirror or a full-length mirror. You should look in the hair, behind the ears, in the waist area, in your belly button.
Ew,
behind the knees,
your belly button. So these are
legs as well.
These mites you can actually see, these ticks.
Right, you can see. You can see with the naked eye.
Are the bites visible if you're bitten?
So sometimes you can't feel it, but you can see the mite if you look very carefully with a mirror. So that's why we recommend doing tick checks.
What's the first thing you should do if you are suspected of having been bitten by a tick?
So in the case of Lyme disease, you can actually take an antibiotic called doxycycline within 72 hours of removal of the tick, and that's to prevent disease onset. And that's only done in very specific circumstances. Otherwise, you can watch for symptoms such as fever, headache, muscle aches, joint pain. There's also a very typical rash of Lyme disease called erythema migrans. It's a red kind of target-shaped rash. And so if you have any of these symptoms, then you should present to your doctor as soon as possible and let them know that you were bitten by a tick.
Oh, I see. I'm seriously thinking of getting a tick repellent. Is this effective? And what are some of the things you need to keep in mind when you consider buying one?
Definitely, tick repellents can be very effective. So you should try to buy a compound that has either pyrethrin or permethrin that can be sprayed on your clothes or tenting. Also, if you buy a compound that has at least 20% DEET, you can apply that directly onto your skin. You should avoid the mouth, the eyes, any open sores, and the hands as well. But that will also be very effective in preventing tick bites.
I don't usually look what's in the compound, but I suppose I should now.
And this is what we're looking at. This is what we're talking about, right?
Yes.
진드기 싹.
Oh.
Very, I like the title, I like the name.
She's tempted to spray it on me right now.
So you just do like,
on
like
the clothes, yes.
Okay,
Bedding as well, tents.
I don't know how this works.
Your socks, shoes, you can spray it on that. And then this compound you can spray on your skin directly.
It says 0.
Oh, so some are only for clothing, and some are actually you can have direct contact on your skin.
This is for your skin.
Okay.
Exactly.
You know, that word tick check reminded me of what monkeys do to each other. That tick check, right? So that we should be doing.
Exactly.
So come here. I'll do a tick check for you. All right. Thank you, Dr. Tan, for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Belly button check, nothing in there. Okay, let's get to some golf. You know, typically golf is played over a course of 18 holes, and in most cases, tournaments include 4 rounds for a total of 72 holes. This past weekend's Pure Silk Bahamas LPGA Classic, not the case. Weather conditions were so bad in the inaugural event that Thursday's opening round was a complete washout, and each of the ensuing 3 rounds had to be shortened to 12 holes instead of the traditional 18, barely allowing the LPGA to complete their minimum requirement of 36 holes to complete a tournament. And in this particular case, after a final round 5 under 42, He claimed the tournament with an 11 under total, 2 strokes better than Korean American Irene Cho. The victory for Il-hee is her first on the LPGA, and it earned her $195,000. Her win was a testament to her ability to play through inclement weather conditions that crumbled second-round leader Paulo Marino, who went down to 13th place after a 4 over 51 in the final round. Now, plenty of rain in Korea yesterday as well, but it didn't stop Korea's national soccer team from opening their training camp in preparations for their upcoming game in Lebanon. And of course, that players braved the conditions that they probably won't have to face, certainly not in Lebanon, June 5th, 2:30 a.m. Korean time with just 4 points in 6 games. Lebanon is basically the only team in Korea's group that is all but mathematically out of the World Cup qualifiers. But they aren't a team Korea can afford to take lightly, as Korea was upset 2-1 in Lebanon in previous round of qualifying back in 2011.
We definitely didn't feel good about the 2-1 loss we suffered there last time, so we plan to redeem ourselves this time around.
Korea is currently second in qualifying, just 1 point behind Uzbekistan with a game in hand. A win would almost lock up a ticket to Brazil next year. That would be Korea's 8th consecutive trip to a World Cup. Well, yesterday I was talking about Chu Shin-soo's slump. This morning, the choo-choo train blew its whistle once more as Chu Shin-soo led off Cincinnati's game this morning against his former team, the Cleveland Indians, with his 10th home run of the season. He then singled and scored again in the 8th as his Reds beat the Indians 4-2, Chu raising his average to .290 on the season. To Korean baseball, the SK Wyverns have been the biggest disappointment in the KBO so far this season, currently in 6th place, 3.5 games out of a playoff spot. But if there's one player that you can't blame their struggles on, it would be their all-star third baseman, Chan Jung. Che is currently hitting .333 with 12 home runs and 41 RBIs. That's leading the league in each of the Triple Crown stats. All that for a sixth-place team that's having problems scoring runs. Now, part of the problem is the departure of Bash brother Lee Ho-jun, who left to expansion NC through free agency, leaving Che Jung with no protection and no one to drive him in. Lee Dae-ho was the last player to win the KBO's Triple Crown. He's now playing in Japan, and his success there could vault him perhaps a step further to the majors someday. You know what? Don't be surprised if Che Jung isn't too far behind him. Baseball is known for players being the victim of pranks, especially during interviews. But some Korean fans and the media, often the victim of collateral damage, is complaining that it's going a little bit too far. Sunday night, after a walk-off hit by LG twins Jung Hee-yoon, the celebration was at its peak. Now, it's normal to perhaps dump water on the player being interviewed, but in this case, the interviewer Jung In-young was hit just as hard by LG teammate Im Chan-gyu. Producers from the TV station, as well as netizens, complained that Im had gone too far. You know, I do wonder, though, would that have happened if the interviewer was a guy? Just a question. Anyways, that is your look at sports. Remember to eat healthy and get some exercise today.
Well, if you're interested in mobile games, then you might be interested in this. Not long ago, the first quarter results came out for game companies, and it was better than expected. And joining us today is David Kim to talk more. Good morning.
Good morning,
David.
Well, tech companies, these game companies, experienced really strong growth in the first quarter of this year. Companies such as Nexon and NCSoft experienced 30 to 40% growth, whereas another company, WeMade, had record sales posted for the first quarter. Now, this growth is all come from overseas mobile game markets. So Korean companies have really been expanding hard into this. And so let's take a look at some of the reasons why. With a rapid increase in smartphone users, more and more mobile games are flooding the market. Korean game apps are recently making a mark on the global app stores. According to the market research company Newzoo, Korean mobile games grabbed 5 out of the top 10 game apps on April's Google Play Store.
In North America, Comtus and Gameville are doing well, and the game Windrunner, developed by WeMade and provided through the Messenger service line, is very popular in Japan.
What's the secret behind such success? First, the impressive graphics are one of the main reasons. In games such as Golf Star, the high-resolution 3D graphics that play out on mobile devices have drawn attention in Canada, Brazil, and many other countries, helping the app win first place in the sports category in 30 countries.
Wow.
The greatest attraction of Golf Star is its realistic graphics. Even within a tiny display screen, the game has Retina-grade resolution and writing skills which add more reality to the golf course.
The graphics of Golf Star are surprisingly realistic. The game takes into account 70 different elements such as wind, temperature, and humidity to calculate the forces the golf ball would encounter within the game.
It's almost like a movie.
Well, a lot of these games, they're realistic.
Another reason for the popularity of Korean game apps is the establishment of local mobile messenger applications. The game Windrunner ranked #1 in the iTunes App Store after teaming up with Messenger Line which is popular in Japan and ranked number 2 in sales for Apple and the Android app
It's
stores.
very important on how you market the game. And I think in the case of Japan, using the strategy of using the Line Messenger worked out well.
Using mobile messenger apps for marketing is a convenient way to reach out to international users. Not only that, companies have also penetrated markets in Southeast Asia using Korea's popular mobile messenger, KakaoTalk. Another reason for the rise in Korean game app popularity is the swift adaptation to changes in the market. Recently, in the mobile game circles, users are shifting from casual games to hardcore games. Due to these changes, Dark Avenger, which has been dubbed the mobile Diablo, ranked within the top 10 in China and 40 other countries. Social networking is also playing a big role. Monster Warlord has made a mark on Google's Play Store top 10 list in Germany and Norway in terms of sales. The final reason is localized marketing. Game companies are either opening firms in certain countries or collaborating with leading companies in each market. Many games are localized to their markets, offering other languages such as Spanish or Russian in addition to English.
Last year, the game industry made up for roughly 58% in the overall sphere of content exports. The game sector has that much influence.
With this, the Korean mobile game market continues to transform rapidly.
Wow.
Right, very colorful and vivid characters there. Now, what are some of the characteristics that Korean mobile games have?
Well, there are 3 main characteristics I would point to. The first is that the Korean gaming industry, the mobile gaming industry especially, has been very quick to adapt this freemium model of game sales. Freemium means we'll give you the game for free.
Oh,
and you can actually,
premium.
yes,
I
premium.
thought
not
you were
premium.
pronouncing it wrong.
So they'll give you the game for free, and then within the game, you can purchase certain things to unlock things in game. So that if you want to get better items more quickly, oh, you can pay 10,000 coins. Oh, you don't have 10,000 coins, that might cost you $2.
So it's like a little bait.
So, yeah, sometimes the cost of these, it reaches into the hundreds of US
You
dollars.
will actually, the people who spend money on freemium models will spend more than they would on just buying the game outright.
I'm living testament to that.
Now, a couple other factors are graphics. Graphics are key. I see it as falling into 2 basic categories. Either with the very realistic graphics like we saw with Golf Star, or the very cute style graphics that we see with a lot of these games like Anipang, Dragonflight, Windrunner, where it's very cute, cartoony with cute sounds and lots of ting, 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 explosions and stars.
Bubbles
and
everywhere.
Bubbles everywhere, yes. And the last thing I'd say is strong ties to social networking, especially mobile messenger platforms. The reason is, it goes beyond just a title like Facebook where it might post on your Facebook page. These push direct notifications directly to your phone and through the messenger applications themselves to remind you, hey, come play. And if you come play, we might give you a little bonus today.
Well, Korean game companies, I believe, have had a good reputation with their PC games. Is it a fair statement to say maybe that it helped them to maybe succeed in the mobile gaming market, in the mobile gaming fields, from the experience that they had with the online games?
Oh, absolutely. The experience that Korean companies have had with making such top-shelf games such as Lineage, Ion, Archangel, these online games especially, have already laid down the foundations for them to adapt to a mobile internet gaming system. But not only that, there's also a lot of programming talent in Korea, but it goes beyond that. It's also developing the infrastructure to allow these talented programmers and artists to really put these games together. And this infrastructure development isn't just private sector, it's actually public sector infrastructure building as well.
Well, we'd like to hear more, but we're out of time for today. So thank you, David, for that.
Thank you.
All right, David, thank you very much. It's definitely a huge change. It's a whole new world out there in gaming from the 16-bit of what we used to play to what it is now. So.
Right. And that brings us to the end of this edition of Korea Today.
We'll see you back here tomorrow exactly at 7 a.m.